American History 1, Unit 1, Video 2. List early U.S. colonies. List historical documents. Define government ideas. Apply government ideas to current U.S. history. We're not going to be really on the high end of balloons. We're not going to create, evaluate, or criticize. We are going to really focus on just remembering and understanding, and that's completely okay. If half of our lessons, if 3/4 of our lessons are just remembering and understanding the basic facts and laying that foundation, that is fine. Because if we lay that foundation, then in the future, we can start adding on to it, and eventually we can get to discussions. Eventually, we can criticize. Eventually, we can analyze. The worst thing that we can do is start analyzing or criticizing beliefs without really knowing all the facts and knowing the foundational levels. We've got to lay the foundation before we even dare take on some of these big ideas. It's okay. If you're just like, oh, I'm remembering our facts, that's fine. The facts will start to add up. 1600s, people will move to America, and we're going to see kind of two different places develop, the northern colonies and the southern colonies. The northern colonies will mainly be religious freedom. The southern colonies will mainly focus on making money. That doesn't mean that in the north they didn't want to make money, and that does not mean in the south they did not want to believe in religion. A lot of these differences are shaped by the environments. The environment and nature in the north and the climate and the weather and the soil are different than in the south. And so that led to some differences in economics then. And those differences will lead to the development over the next 100, 200, 300 years of those societies. When people have to live differently, they develop different beliefs, different views, and so the North will develop a lot differently than the South develops, and there still are many of these differences today that can be traced back not just to the people who originally settled there, people in the North settling mainly for religious freedom, and the people in the South settling mainly for job opportunities, but also because when they got there, the environment determined how they would act, behave, believe. We'll get to that in a second. The northern colonies, the New England colonies, mainly religious freedom. Southern colonies mainly making money. And the mid-Atlantic colonies here are going to be a mixture of both. The first colony that gets set up before Jamestown is Roanoke Island. We're going to use a really basic definition here. This is not very comprehensive. This does not include everything you need to know about a colony. You can Google that up. But we're really just talking about a town, and that town is controlled or owned by another nation. So England is setting up a colony, a small town that they control and rule and make money off of. There's a lot more complicated, more nuanced versions of a colony, but I'm just giving you a basic. We're laying some foundation. So this town is owned by England. Roanoke is the first one that gives you kind of an idea geographically where it is in comparison to Jamestown, set up by Sir Walter Raleigh, while Raleigh is out running around, mixing it up with the Spanish before they cut his head off. The colony people go missing. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue. Did aliens get involved? More than likely, the people of Roanoke just mixed in with the local American Indian tribe and settled further inward from the coast. Cool. Or not cool. Whatever. Look it up if you want. Jamestown, Virginia, 1607. The next colony, the successful colony, did not start out very successful. Remember, they first set this place up to find gold. There isn't any gold in Jamestown, so the people that go there are just looking for easy money. And when they show up and there isn't easy money, well, that's a problem. You attracted people looking for easy money. Now they got to do hard work. People that are looking for easy money don't do hard work. Also, remember, we're not attracting the best, the brightest, the strongest, the smartest. The people that are really successful, that are probably really talented and really skilled, they're probably going to stay in England. They're probably already successful. The people that you're going to attract are the people that have not been successful. So you're not going to bring in the best. And then you bring in the best, and then they got to find a new job. And so it's a bit of a disaster in Jamestown. Quick project, if you ever want to do it on Minecraft or Minetest, is rebuild the Jamestown colony here, this triangular fort. So there's the starving times, and everyone's basically dying. Quick story is a guy is actually executed because during the starving times, and they're freezing, or these guys are looking for easy money. They don't really want to do hard labor. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, forget about making money, which was the original plan. They're just trying to survive at this time. There's a story of a man who tries to murder his wife and eat her. Oh, by the way, she's preggers. Pretty sick, pretty dark. But that gives you no idea of, whoa, wait, that's how America started? How did we survive? We just barely survived. And a lot of that is due to the guy named John Smith and also the Powhatan Indians, along with Pocahontas, who helped them get through the hard times. Oh, wow. So the uplifting part of the story is we all got along, the American Indians and the English, and everything worked out until we decided to kill each other again. But at first, you have John Smith, who's like the firm, strong leader, and he quotes the Bible and saying, "He who does not work will not eat." And so a lot of people die. I think 1/3 of the people die. It might even be even more of that, but they barely make it through. They survive. And so now they're actually kind of getting along. And then one day, this guy, John Rolfe, rolls in. And he's like, "Hey, I got this tobacco seed. We can plant this. It grows. You can smoke it. We can make some cash." And they do. And now all of a sudden, Jamestown is the successful colony, and they're making money in America, and boom. And you might think, well, it's just some fact, some dude grew tobacco. That's a pretty big fact. John Rolfe, if not for John Rolfe, then the colony is not a success, money doesn't come in, people don't come in, and the whole shape of America becomes completely different. Who knows what happens? If we're not able to make money, no one's going to come in, someone else is going to come in. Who knows what history would have been? But because John Rolfe comes in at that time and says, look, we can make some money. If we make money, then we're going to do better. And they do. And then they start attracting even more money, and they start attracting more people. And now America seems like, oh, we can make this thing work. England's looking over at John Rolfe saying, all right, we got some stuff that we can do. Let's go all in. And that's because of John Rolfe. History could have been completely different without him. So when we set up Jamestown, we start with a charter, which is just a fancy word for a document that talks about your principles or your beliefs or your ideas. It tells about really the charter of the Virginia Company of London. What Jamestown is a business opportunity. These guys get together in England and they establish a company. They get investors, they raise money, and they start a business. And that business is to go to America and make money. How are we going to make money? Oh no, we're just going. It's America. We'll figure it out when we get there. Probably find some gold. Yeah, there's some gold over there. So the company in England gets investors. They set it up. They write documents down that explain the company. And so they write it down in that document. That's the charter of the Company of London. And they write down that's it. And so in that explains like, here's what we're going to do. It's what we're about. Let's go do it. One of the things that's in there is republicanism, which is also we can call that representative government, or the idea that this business, when it goes over to America, the people, a part of that business, will all get to vote. And the people vote to elect a leader. That a leader makes decisions. That leader also gets to make decisions in the House of Burgesses over in Parliament in England. There it is, day one in America. This is the beginning of America, really, for anyone. And you can go back to Columbus or anything before this, but this is a really important moment. And you can pick any moment to start American history if you want, but this is a big one. We are a nation of laws. And so here it is on day one, we are establishing law. And that law is representative democracy. That's in the charter of the Virginia Company of London. We have democracy today. We believe in democracy today. Guess what? Thank goodness the people that started America started with democracy. What if the people that started over America decided, no, we're going to be a monarchy, or the people that came to America decided, no, we're going to have dictators? No, they decided the people are going to make decisions. And guess what? 400 years later, the people make decisions. Carolina colonies will be established later. They're there to make money. Cash crops, cotton, tobacco, and of course, slavery. We will talk much more about that in the future. That's the southern colonies. The northern colonies are mainly established for religious freedom. These will be the Puritans or the Pilgrims. They will leave England because they want to practice religion the way that they want to practice it, which is pretty radical and pretty extreme. They'll go to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands will look at these people like, you people are crazy. Get out of here. And so they will leave the Netherlands and come to America so that they can practice their own radical form of religion. We often think of these people, the Pilgrims, oh, they're great. Well, I mean, they are really great into the religion, but they're not very tolerant. They kicked a lot of people out of their area. Rhode Island is basically set up from the people who got booted out of the Pilgrims. Again, though, we have another document of the Mayflower Compact being just basically a document, and we'll have the idea of the people ruling. So another famous document you need to remember. We have the Charter of the Virginia Company of London in the southern colonies, and in the northern colonies, we have the Mayflower Compact, and they are similar in that they establish democracy or self-rule from day one. And guess what we still believe today? Self-rule. This is pretty amazing. When you look at the history of America, we start with democracy. Everyone else has basically gotten to democracy, but nobody started with democracy. We set the trend, and we still believe in this today. People ruling. We've had good times, we've had bad times, but a lot of that is because we rule. People make good decisions, and people make bad decisions. People elect good leaders, people elect bad leaders. But we always have the choice to change it. So even during the bad times, you know that eventually we'll make a good decision. We'll be back on the up. But even when we're doing really well as a country, we all know that eventually we're going to make a bad decision, and we're going to go right back down. That's just At least we get to decide. I don't know. That's saying democracy. Like, I don't know about this democracy thing, man. Doesn't sound that great. Yeah, I know. New England Colonies. So the AP U.S. History Guidelines are going to tell you that this colony was established with the idea of separating church from state. Is that true? I'm not going to go into it, but the reality is it's probably not that true. It's not this black and white. This is kind of the 1960s activist judges reinterpreting the Constitution and then rewriting the public school textbooks. And so now we have a generation, actually about 2 to 3 generations of children that have now been told this idea of separation of church and state. Whereas if I would have said something like this in 1950 or 1940 about separation of church and state, like, what do you mean separation of church and state? Religion's a big part of this country. It always was. We're talking about the Pilgrims, right? The Pilgrims came here for a religion and they set up a government and they were a part of that government. And what are you talking about? Yeah, I know. But for the guidelines, because the AP US history guidelines are written such a way that we have this idea of church and state. So let me put it this way. In real life, when you're talking about real policies and making decisions for your family, with your friends, with your community, you might want to reevaluate this idea of separation of church and state. Is it real? Check out the history. Look at the documents. For the test and for most of your classroom settings where you have to answer A, B, C, D questions, then you're going to make sure you pretend that this thing is real, that America's always had this firm black and white separation of church and state. Even though if you really just think about it for 2 seconds, like, well, I don't know, I think religion's always kind of been a big part of America and decision making. It's always influenced the lawmakers. Don't do that. Don't think of it that way. You need to pretend that, yes, religion's over here and that the government and public institutions are completely separated. It's black and white. It's separated, and everyone's always believed in that, and everyone thinks it's so. That's what you got to put for the test. All right? I'm sorry. And that's attributed to the New England colonies. That's what you got to put on the test. Fishing, boat making, that's how they made a lot of their money. Lumber, boat making, fishing, not as much farming. Middle colonies will be a mixture of both, religious freedom. I don't know. Am I allowed to use the Quaker guy? I am a Quaker, so I guess I'm going to give it approval. But I think we're supposed to cancel this. I think the woke said this is offensive. But I don't know. He's a white guy, so I think we don't have to quite cancel it yet. I don't know. You guys tell me if I got to get rid of the Quaker guy. I should be able to say since I am a Quaker, but I don't think that's the way the rules work anymore. So I'm going to leave it. I mean, the fact that they're named Quakers is kind of a joke in itself. This was a name used to tease the Friends Society. This was used to describe them as a pejorative. This was an insult. And the Quakers said, oh, you're going to insult me? You know what? We like that. We'll take that. You want to call us Quakers? Call me Quakers. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool to me. I don't know. So this is the middle colonies, a little mixture of both. All right, here's the big idea. We talked about these 2 different economies that had developed. In the north, you've got boat making, lumber, manufacturing, fishing. In the south, we've got farming and agriculture. One of the main reasons for that is the environment. It is the weather. It is the climate. It is the soil. The people here did what they had to do to survive, and the people here did what they had to do to survive. It's not, remember, the people in Jamestown wanted to make gold. Sure, everyone loved alchemy, but they couldn't find gold, so they had to find another way to make money. And the people up here had to find a way to make money, and this is what worked. Making boats, chopping down trees, creating lumber, fishing. Down here, the easiest way to make money was farming. And so the environment around them shaped their lives, which then will shape the lives of Americans for the centuries to come. Obviously, slavery is going to be a part of this story, and not so much a part of this story, not because these people were evil, racist, they might have been, but because of the environment. You want to blame somebody, blame God, blame the environment. You can also blame the people that enslaved them. You know, they're not innocent. You're a slaveholder. You're not innocent. But the environment is going to lead to the South needing more slaves, and the environment in the North is going to lead to them not. A lot of times we like to believe that the North were moralistic and holier than thou. It was because they really couldn't use the slaves. They were a little, obviously the abolitionists had a little bit more moral authority here, but the reason they existed was because of the environment. So a lot of it has to do with climate and soil. The soil was better in the South, but the soil in the northern colonies was much more rockier and it was harder to farm. The biggest difference here is just the calendar. And where it's warmer in the south, you have more summer months. And more summer months means a longer growing season. In the north, it's not warm as long, from May to September only. And so you only have 5 months. So when we compare the two, scary, it's been 50 minutes. In the north, 5 months of growing versus 7 months of growing. Well, guess what, folks? Oh, look at that plant, or look at this plant. So where do you want to be a farmer? Which farms are going to be more successful? You can try to be a farmer up here and you might be all right, but the farmers down here that get 2 more months of growing are going to be much more successful, because remember, 2 more months, May to September versus April to October. The southern colonies have an unfair advantage, and so you could try to be a farmer, or you know what, you can adjust and adapt to your environment. And so ship making and fishing will be the northern climate, and probably don't need very many slaves up here. And down here, if we're going to farm all the time, we're going to need some slaves, unfortunately. So the early colonies, historical documents, defining government ideas, applying government ideas. Again, it's okay if you're just remembering facts. Like, I think I'm supposed to be learning something more important. Don't stress out. It is completely okay in social studies to sometimes just remember the facts and go over the facts. And then you can come back later and add on. But you can't come back later and add on if you didn't build that foundation. In English and science, sometimes you got to do some pretty high-level stuff all the time. In social studies, sometimes it's okay to just sit back, hear the story, and remember facts and the basic foundation so that we can have a conversation. Now that you know about the North and the South, now we can talk about it. But if you didn't know about the North and the South, if you didn't know about the soil, if you didn't know about the climate, if you didn't know about the Mayflower Compact, or if you didn't know about the charter of the Virginian Company of London, then we can't have a conversation. If we can't have a conversation, then we can't go anywhere. But now that you have facts, then we can start to discuss. Once we start discussing, then we can start applying it to different times in our lives, moments, different eras. And then we can start to build. But we got to start at the bottom.